Hello and welcome to Monday Morning Detective, the podcast. I am your host, Gino Scala, and this is episode number 64. And today, now, I must preface this by saying it's been 2.5 weeks since our last video, and for many reasons. One, I've been very ill with a very painful affliction. And while it's not over, I'm able to get around a little bit and feel good enough to get in front of the camera. Also, we had that horrible event over in Israel, and I've been paying very close attention to that and doing what I can in spreading the word. It's shocking and extremely sad, and this is a mark in history that we're not going to forget for a very long time. Third, within the span of 24 hours, I lost 3 very, very good people, close friends of mine. And then I found out just this morning that one friend of mine from high school passed, and another good friend has a very, very bad disease, very bad illness. And we're praying for his quick recovery, although it's going to take a lot of time. And so we've been fraught with a lot of bad news of late. And in addition, I do this podcast that is basically full of more bad news. And today's is no exception. I want to talk about an incident that occurred in my own backyard here in Alabama. Not literally my backyard, but in our area, where an Alabama inmate was killed or died as a result of being kidnapped, tortured, and sexually assaulted over a 2-week period. Now, you wonder, how does a guy in prison, how does he get kidnapped in a secured facility with guards, etc.? Well, the kidnapping was done by fellow inmates, one in particular, and he rented out this person after he himself sexually assaulted this person many times. He rented out this person for being victimized as well. He was beaten and assaulted sexually to an inch of his life. And then when they did finally find him, he did die in the hospital. Now, there are many, many, many wrong things with this. First of all, he was a white guy, 22 years old, tall and thin, which, doesn't do well in prison. As a general rule, he was the father of 2 babies, and he was married, and he was in for second-degree theft, not robbery. Now, it may have been originally a robbery that was pled down to a second degree, but more likely it was a first-degree theft, whatever that may entail. And pled down to a second-degree theft, where he was to do a 1 year plus 1 day stint in prison. Now, the reason why it's 1 plus 1 is because 1 year is generally in jail. If you're sentenced to 1 year or less, it's generally county jail. This was state prison. And in order to get him into state prison, they had the day. So he was coming home in 2 weeks. It was he was at the Staten Correctional Facility here in Alabama, and this occurred with a full battery of guards at work 24/7. Now, how does that happen? I have several friends who were prison guards, and they're very defensive of their jobs, and they're very defensive of their industry, I should say. They're retired now, both of them. But clearly, if those guys are high character people. Otherwise, they wouldn't be friends of mine. So I vouch for them implicitly as high character individuals. Now, first of all, I don't believe it would have happened under the eyes of my friends. And there's no history that I'm aware of with any of these guys that I know that an event like this ever took place. But 2 weeks of bed counts and meals where someone is just missing in this secure prison? How does that happen? How does that happen? Well, there can't be many hiding spaces. You could have every prisoner in the cell block, every prisoner in the prison, covering for this person that's kidnapped him and hiding him and raping him. And you can have that guy protected, but he can't be protected 2 weeks worth. That's insane. There has to be checks and balances in place to where if a prisoner is missing for 1 minute, let alone 2 weeks, but certainly, let's say 24 hours, then an all-out search of every cell, every nook and cranny should have taken place. Now, it doesn't believe, I don't know where he was hidden. I'm sure there's more coming out about this. But this poor kid died. And his last message to his family was, please pray for me, because he was in so much pain and such. And I'm still not sure how that message got out. I think, cell phones are smuggled into prison, and somehow he was able to convince somebody to let him text home and give a final message before he died. Or he was able to text while in prison. I mean, in the hospital. That's very possible because he did die in the hospital. But heads should roll. Now, what I posted on social media with this story was that now every prisoner involved directly or indirectly with this event, in my opinion, should be tried, found guilty of murder, and be sentenced to death. In Alabama, we have the death penalty, and we use it. Every prison guard who was on shift, who failed to do their duties, who failed to follow procedure, who was actively protecting and keeping this incident secret from their superiors obviously should be fired, should also be tried for murder, and should receive life without parole. That's how I would handle this. Whether or not it gets handled that way, I don't know. But now the defendants are going to come up with some reason, some, made up lie that, this guy threatened them or he sexually assaulted them or whatever. It's all going to be lies. So there's just no justification in prison for doing such a thing. I think this guy was completely victimized because of his slight frame and inability to protect himself, and probably inability to make friends. He, may very well have been a white separatist or something while in prison. He probably sided with that guy. But he wasn't a skinhead. He had a full head of hair and a beard and all that. So obviously there are going to be more, there's going to be more information released. We hope. But it is a sad, awful, tragic story. And I'm sick of this shit. I really am. I can't, I don't expect prison to be, a romper room or some safe spot, safe place for these, prisoners, most of them violent. But you can't throw raw meat at the lions like that. There's got to be some protection of those who can't realistically protect themselves. That doesn't include having to purchase $50, from the commissary for these guys every week, or paying them to protect them, or anything of that nature. The state needs to protect these guys. They need to be housed maybe in a separate area where they're less likely to be victimized. I don't know. I don't know a lot about the prison, the penal system, but this can't go on. And again, a dirty prison guard is as bad, if not worse, than a dirty cop. Because these guys, the victims in these prisons, have nowhere to go. All right? So, I'd like to dedicate this episode to my friends who've recently passed: Charlie, Melva, Leroy, and of course to my friend Steve, who's fighting an illness, a serious illness. And please like this channel, subscribe, and spread the word. Share it with everybody, because I'm back, we're back, and we're going to continue. All right? So have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.